There is a special election for Attorney General Jeff Sessions' former Senate seat. But with the fallout from the failed health care vote, one of those candidates for the seat says Majority Leader Mitch McConnell should step down.
Mitch McConnell has been an abject failure in coming up with a plan that musters the 51 votes to proceed through the Senate. At this point, if I were Mitch McConnell, I would resign and let somebody else see if they can provide the kind of leadership that is necessary to address health care now, tax reform next, infrastructure next, and on down the list.
That was Congressman Mo Brooks with our Peter Doocy yesterday in the downstairs of Capitol Hill, and we are now joined by Congressman Brooks. Nice to see you, sir. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good to hear from you today.
I want to get your thought on saying who the guy who could be your majority leader is going to resign. But first, that tweet that Garrett Tenney put up from President Trump just a few minutes ago. If a new health care bill is not approved quickly, bailouts for insurance companies and bailouts for members of Congress will end very soon. That's the president's proclamation. You're more of an expert on this than just about anybody, Congressman. What power does the president really have, other than the bully pulpit, to end these bailouts, to end the subsidies that congressional staffs get?
Well, the President of the United States has tremendous power in this one context. We don't have the money to pay for it. We're looking at a roughly $700 billion deficit this year. That's money we don't have, we have to borrow to get, and can't afford to pay back. So I think the president is well within his rights to cut spending in any part of the federal government to the extent that we don't have the money, physically don't have the money to pay for it. And I'd like to see President Trump exercise that prerogative on the executive branch's part a little bit more aggressively, whether it be on health care or some other issue. There is no constitutional requirement that the president borrow money we don't have.
This threat by the president to end bailouts, conceivably could be talking about some of the subsidies that House staffers get to buy policies on the exchanges. Do you think that's going to change anything for your colleagues on the health care debate who can't seem to agree on anything?
Well, I don't know how that would play out politically long term. Quite frankly, the problem that we're facing right now is because the United States Senate is dysfunctional. Let's get back to Mitch McConnell for a second. His job as majority leader is to lead and to come up with a plan that can cobble together the majority votes necessary to pass whatever the agenda item happens to be. Mitch McConnell failed at that, and in my mind, we need to give somebody else the opportunity. There are 52 senators who are Republican in the United States Senate. Let's see which one is bold enough, which one is aggressive enough, which one is conservative enough to actually do what needs doing in the United States Senate.
It's easy to be against someone or something, as the Republicans are finding out. It's a lot harder to be for it and to actually pass it. Who would you suggest? Who should take over as majority leader, if not Mitch McConnell?
Well, I'm not going to pick any particular person right now. I'm in the House, but there are a number of them that come to mind that I think would be excellent majority leaders. But having said that, wait a minute, let me get to your premise.
Congressman, you're running for the Senate. If you're successful, who would you want to be the majority leader? You said Mitch McConnell should resign. If you're elected, who would you support?
Who would I like to see? I'd like to see one of the conservatives. It could be a Ted Cruz. It could be a Rand Paul. It could be a Mike Lee. It could be a Ben Sasse. There are a dozen or 24 different individuals in the United States Senate who are bold, who are newer, who are more aggressive. They have more energy, and they're conservative. And I'd like to see us have a conservative majority leader, someone who will support President Trump's America First agenda.
If you are elected to the Senate, you would get to vote on one of those. Here's the latest polling for the Alabama Senate race, and this is the Republican primary that's coming up. The current senator, who was a good friend of Jeff Sessions, Senator Luther Strange, 35%. Roy Moore, the Ten Commandments judge, 33%. You're at 16%, and this is one of your this is one of your latest campaign ads. Hold on. Let me play your campaign ad.
That poll. No, that's all bunk, okay? That poll was very poorly done, and by way of example, it had listed in 4th place an Australian out of 9 different Republican candidates. Really? An Australian is number 4, a person who has not lived in the state of Alabama until the day she came from Australia to sign up and who travels our state on a bus or hitching a ride.
Congressman,
we got has no credibility with anyone who's
we got that you disagree with
credibility with anyone who's familiar with the methodology.
We got that you disagree with the poll. That was the poll our brain room said that it had sound methodology, but we'll leave the poll aside for a second. This is the ad that's now on the air.
And I can give you other polling data too. No, I can give you a lot more polling data that shows how badly off that particular poll is, if you wish. But all I can say at this point is I look forward to being in the United States Senate. The person who's there now that you claim is a close friend of Jeff Sessions, I respectfully disagree.
Okay, all right. Well, a lot of points of disagreement here. We'll look forward to getting the polling that you talk about, have you back on at a different time to talk about that. I want to play the ad, though, that's on the air right now from your campaign in Alabama. Get your reaction.
Does this change your views on the gun situation in America?
The Second Amendment right to bear arms is to help ensure that we always have a republic.
And that's an ad about your reaction right after the congressional shooting that left Steve Scalise badly wounded. There's been a lot of reporting that his office, among others, took quite exception to you using the congressional shooting for political purposes. Wanted to give you the opportunity to respond.
Well, I disagree with your trying to promote Luther Strange's approach to all this, as you seem to be doing, and I wish you wouldn't do that. But I was in there too, okay? I was in the middle of that shootout that involved over 100 shots being fired, and I'm trying to stress very strongly my support for the Second Amendment. And in that setting, where a liberal reporter comes up to me and tries to get me to jog off my belief in the Second Amendment, I wanted the American people, and particularly the voters in Alabama, to understand my commitment. And that 30-second ad we thought was very concise and very effective in showing my commitment after having been in a gun battle and not wavering in support of the Second Amendment right to bear arms.
Well, I don't think anybody would question whether
And by the way, as an aside, I don't understand why anyone in Washington would be upset with it. We're not broadcasting that in Washington. Anyone who's complaining about it had to search out to find it. We're not broadcasting it anywhere except in the state of Alabama. So it's very curious that some of the establishment type folks are searching out for an ad that they can criticize in order to help Mitch McConnell put in a gentleman who we believe in Alabama unethically obtained an appointment to the United States Senate by holding over the head of the governor of criminal prosecution. That is a severe violation of prosecutorial ethics. That's one of the reasons why there are 17 people in this race right now.
All right. Well, given the accusations, we'll of course invite Senator Strange, who's been on this program before, to come back and react to that. And we'll have you on before the election, sir. Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
That's why we're having a special election, is because of the ethical cloud over this issue. The governor had to call a special election this year rather than next.
All right. Well, we will wait for that. Appreciate your time, sir.